Today, we're going to talk about two short but important amendments, Amendments 9 and 10. So, this is wrapping up the Bill of Rights, part of the amendments to the U.S. Constitution. So, as you may remember, James Madison actually authored the Bill of Rights, so he captured the wording, but he was working with the whole group of people who wanted things in the Constitution that couldn't fit in the original articles. We had two different teams at that time. The Anti-Federalists, who were very suspicious about having a powerful government, having just been freed from a despotic king in England. And now they wanted to set up a government, but not have it too powerful. They didn't want to fall into tyranny. And then, so those were the Anti-Federalists. The Federalists, on the other side, knew that the Articles of Confederation had not worked, that we needed enough federal government to make sure that people's rights were safe, and that the country could be safe from outside dangers. So James Madison got assigned the job of capturing down this Bill of Rights to make sure that everybody was happy, or at least enough to get everything signed in the Constitution. So let's go back to our preamble of the Constitution. So, what really the Bill of Rights was doing was protecting the Constitution all the way back to the preamble. And as you remember, these are the guidelines. This is what instituted our Constitution. It is what makes the importance of the Constitution. All right, it is. The preamble is, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And we do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And remember, we are the people. We are ordaining this contract between us and the government, and the contract is the Constitution. All right, so we want to make sure that there's justice, domestic tranquility, common defense, and general welfare. So the Bill of Rights was protecting that general welfare, the justice, and the tranquility. So, and you remember, our natural rights are what everything is based on. So let's look at Amendment 9. All right, so Amendment 9 says, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people." In other words, they captured some rights and clarified them in the Constitution, but they can't clarify every single natural right that we were given by our Creator and by nature. So, our natural rights are as many as the stars in the sky. And so we cannot capture all of those in the Constitution. So, one of the things that the founding fathers were worried about is, if we started naming rights, like in the Bill of Rights, then some smarty would try to say those are the only rights you got. And so, in order to make sure that our rights that couldn't be all listed in the Constitution were protected, they added Amendment 9 that says, if it's not listed, if it's not enumerated here in the Constitution, doesn't mean it's not there. That you can't take away people's rights just because it wasn't specifically listed in the Constitution. Now, every once in a while over the years, the Supreme Court and the court system, whose job it is to interpret the laws of the land, will sometimes expand what laws affect what rights. So, clarifying civil rights were important. And so there are more laws and interpretations as we grow in our wisdom as a nation. And the court systems are the ones that will generally start expanding, clarifying those rights until Congress makes laws that also clarify those. But even then, that's not limiting the rights that aren't enumerated in the Constitution. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. And then our last amendment is Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively and to the people. All right, so what that means is, again, we're not limiting the powers of the states just because everything isn't written down in the Constitution. So the states and the people, we the people, have powers that are not limited by the Constitution. So you remember, we have checks and balances, we have states have powers, people have powers and rights. The government, the federal government has powers and rights. So if the federal government doesn't have a power limited and described in the Constitution, then the states are holding that power along with the people. And again, you see that argued in courts, and sometimes the Supreme Court will expand that. Again, you will see that more and more where there are states who ignore the basic like civil rights of people. So the domestic tranquility, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, general welfare. If a state makes a law that inhibits those things, the power of the Constitution and the courts will sometimes override that until Congress can make a law that clarifies things. So remember, we have now our Bill of Rights, and then we have other amendments that we will be looking at next. And so it gets more and more interesting as you go along to see what was necessary to clarify over the years of our country. But at least in the Bill of Rights, we got clarified that we have rights and we did not give those up. We have a social contract between we the people and the government, and those rights not enumerated are ours, and the powers belong to the government, the federal government, the state governments, and we the people.